This is the time of year when car dealers offer amazing incentives to bring in potential buyers. But buyer beware. Craig Thor Kimmel, an automotive consumer advocate and lemon law attorney, is here with tips on how to buy the car you want without being taken for a ride. Good morning.
Good morning.
The ads are inescapable. Are there deals out there? Is there an overstock? Is it the inventory time a good time to buy?
It's an excellent time to buy now until the end of the year, because manufacturers want to write off these costs for extra sales by the end of the year, January 1st. And also in the new year, car shows come out. Manufacturers want to hawk their new products, get a competitive advantage, and launch the new year properly.
Right. So when you walk into the dealership, though, you have some things that you say you absolutely have to know before you even think about walking into a car dealership. And if you have a model in mind, you say you have to know the MSRP. What on earth is that?
This is the sticker on the side of the car. It's the manufacturer's suggested retail price. And the word suggested is really the critical word there, because it's only information for the manufacturer to provide the consumer what they should be paying for this car in a range. But for consumers, it's the starting point from which negotiations begin. And usually you pay less than MSRP if you know how to negotiate for a car.
So by and large, when you're going in, assuming all things being equal, you should probably pay less than the MSRP?
Absolutely. The only time that this might not apply is for certain vehicles that are in high demand. For example, these hybrid cars right now where there's long waiting lists. But I also advise consumers that if they want that type of a car, just wait. There'll be plenty in the future. You want to get the best deal now because you're going to be living with this car for years to come, and you don't want to pay too much.
The other thing you say is you absolutely need to know your own personal credit rating before you go in. Why?
Well, credit worthiness is a function of how much you pay for the car indirectly, because the finance rate is the rate at which the banks lend you money. The better your credit, the lower your finance rate. The lower your finance rate, the lower your payments. If you do not know what your credit worthiness is, dealers oftentimes will write you at a higher rate without you even knowing, and without most states requiring dealers to disclose this information. And you could double or triple your car payments before you know it without even paying attention to the finance rate.
Is it a rule of thumb, is it better to get the financing at the dealer or go find it on your own?
That's a difficult answer, because some of the programs manufacturers provide, 0%, 2%, 4% interest rates, will give you an excellent opportunity to get a car much cheaper than you can anywhere else for financing. However, oftentimes dealers don't tell you that they're marking up your rate. So check with your own bank, check with a big lender like GMAC or perhaps Ford Motor Credit to know what you should be paying going into the transaction, and make sure that you don't pay more than that when you're at the dealership.
Yeah. This sounds like such common sense, but you say check the car before you buy it.
You know, this is the easiest piece of advice, but it's the one thing that people just assume. They're buying a car, they think it's right out of the box, everything's going to work well. What consumers need to do is check and make sure that the engine in the car is the right engine. If it's a V8, make sure it says V8 on the sticker and that it's actually the V8 underneath the hood. I've seen people find out otherwise. Check the air conditioning, make sure the sunroof works. Even in weather like today, you want to make sure everything works. Heater, stereo, make sure you have the right CD player. If it's a stack player versus...
Can you do that before you sign the paper?
That's the only time to do it, because once you sign this car away in the sales contract, it's yours, regardless of what material is on the vehicle versus what's on the sticker. So make sure that you try it before you buy it, and that everything is exactly the way you want it before you sign.
This is the really big one, because I've been in those dealerships sometimes, especially as a young person, as you're going in for the first time. You're so overwhelmed by all of this stuff. Piles of paper being flown at you. Understand exactly what the terms of the contract are.
Absolutely, and the contract can be very misleading. What you are told by the salesman may be one thing, and what the contract says are something else. Make sure you read the contract. The big boxes that it reflect your interest rates, your payments, and the duration of the loan, critical importance. And make sure that you read all the little small words and disclaimers, because that will determine what your rights are after you sign the contract. But once you sign, the car is yours. The dealer can't change the deal.
By and large, do you think that most big name dealerships do a pretty reputable job of selling cars?
You know, reputable, Harry, is something where you compare one dealership versus another. And the way the industry has always worked, car dealers handle things a certain way. The law generally requires quite a bit more than what the dealerships may tell the consumer. So I always tell the consumer, get the most information you can in advance. Make sure that you look at the situation from a very difficult point of view for yourself, and make sure very skeptical, and make sure that you don't just assume that the dealer is being truthful.
All right, go get the deal, but know what you're doing. Craig Thor Kimmel, thanks so much.
My pleasure.